Greetings visitors, and welcome to Halfling 13 Gaming. It's May 25th, the start of the Memorial Day holiday in the United States, and this is Halfling 13 Hobbies. Greetings friends, welcome to Halfling 13 Hobbies. I'm Halfling 13, and this is the latest news and happenings around the hobby table with our various activities that we have going on. This week saw the release of the new Star Wars Legion figures, the Imperial Range Troopers and the Republic Clone Troopers. Managed to snag a set of both of them Saturday actually, from our local gaming store, and spent most of Sunday assembling, cleaning, and then painting. The paint jobs were fairly straightforward. My current approach and goal is really, as each release comes out, to be able to collect, assemble, and paint them within the first weekend. Otherwise, it just adds to my overall backlog of shame with paint. This was no exception, but it was a bit of a challenge since the units were both fairly sizable. There's 4 clones and I believe it was 7 or 8 of the range troopers. Fortunately, both of them turned out fairly straightforward. I have a full detail and recipe on my website if you're interested to take a look at that at halfling13.com. But basically it turned into a couple of base coats, some Nuln oil, and then some dry brushing for the different pieces. Overall, fairly straightforward, and the technique, at least for the clone armor, I was quite happy with. I've been working on it since on a large batch of stormtroopers using a similar technique, which so far is turning out pretty good. So those will probably be finished up potentially this weekend, but with various holiday activities, I don't know if I'll get to them. Otherwise, it'll probably be finished up sometime early next week, since I still have some time in the schedule. The other big event that we had this week, or as of yesterday, was the release of Legion Battle Report 80. This is another battle report with the Empire versus the Rebels. This time it was Carter versus Andy. Andy playing the Rebels. He hasn't been able to play for a while, so it was nice to be able to get him back into the gaming system with us. They played a bit of a grudge match between the two of them, with a bunch of guys on both sides, honestly, with lots of units, lots of figures. Started off well, shifted midway through the battle, but ended up being a pretty good game, although, as usual, we didn't make it fully to turn 6. The game was pretty much decided, I think it was around turn 5 in this case, but it was a good match overall. As far as I know, there weren't a whole lot of mistakes. That generally is getting kind of limited. I think there was 1 or 2. There was a couple of times when Andy forgot that he could either fire support with his machine guns, or a couple of other techniques that were more advanced that he just didn't have the experience and wasn't able to do. So those were pointed out by a couple of the audience already. One thing to note on this, since this is episode 80, we're doing a giveaway as part of this. If you watch the video, within the time codes, there'll be a Imperial transmission that'll pop up. That'll give out a keyword. If you leave a comment in the comment section with that keyword in it, then on next Sunday, the 2nd, I think it is, I'm going to do a drawing for all the comments that have used that keyword. If you're selected, then you score a full set of our unit pointers, the red and blue little arrows that we use to mark the units and collect the tokens. Free of charge, no cost necessary, just enter by leaving a comment. Watch the video, obviously. We always encourage people to do that. And one lucky person will get a selection of those tokens sent out to them. Unfortunately, I do have to limit it to continental US only due to shipping costs, since we're unfortunately not sponsored and haven't been able to get any significant sponsorships and everything. It does come out of our own pocket, so I'm kind of limited on the shipping costs and can't go too expensive on that. But the channel is growing. Happy to say the other big milestone as far as the channel was this week. We managed to surpass 670, I think, by last count, as far as the number of subscribers. So we're about 2/3 of the way to YouTube monetization. At which point, I'm pretty certain I might earn like 10 or 20 cents a month from the various videos. Again, not much, but we're getting there. It's slowly growing. As always, if you like our content, especially on the Legion channel, like and subscribe, grow the channel, share it with friends, etc., and try to expand the audience as much as we can. Definitely like your feedback. You're of course welcome to like and subscribe on this channel, but I think this role-playing side only has about 60 to 65 or so subscribers, so got much further to go, given that the content is a lot more focused as far as the audience. The other thing we ended up playing, since we had the range troopers and the clone commandos fully painted, we opted to do a showcase game on Thursday night of this last week. Episode 81 is what it'll be. We did end up streaming it live, and had a dozen or so people that tuned in and watched. A couple of people watched for a fairly significant time, so definitely welcome. Thank you for doing that. The game turned out pretty good. Again, didn't make the full 6 turns, but it was fairly clear by turn 5 where the victory was going to go. Good chance to show off both the commandos as well as the range troopers, although probably the range troopers did a better showing. The commandos didn't quite. We weren't really sure how to use them fully to their full effectiveness, so they didn't quite get their points value. But a couple of good shots, good tactics. This was between George and Carter, and everybody seemed to have a lot of fun despite the challenges built into the various armies. So that'll post next week, Friday, as episode 81. I wanted to give an update on my other woodworking projects as well. I've commented a couple of times about a revised paint rack, what I'm terming the apothecary cabinet. It's a box type design, series of drawers designed to hold, I think by my count, 120 dropper bottle paint bottles. I'm focused on the Army Painter bottles at this point, primarily because I prefer those. Those are a lot easier to use and dispense compared to the Citadel pots, although I use quite a bit of the contrast paints. The rest of the Citadel paints with the pots just never works well for me. They end up drying out too fast, they get clumpy, etc. It doesn't work well. I'm much more prone towards the eyedropper, and I certainly can't be bothered to buy the Citadel paints at their higher prices and then repot them into dropper bottles. That's way too much effort. Army Painter makes good quality material. Again, not sponsored, but certainly always interested. Army Painter products are very good, and I use them on most of my miniatures at this point. The problem is, given how many dropper bottles there are in each set, it gets a bit unwieldy to store them. My current paint rack design that I have is a grid design with a hexagonal square, basically. Holds, gosh, 150, 160 paint bottles, which is great. Holds lots of them. But the way it positions them, you either see the top of the bottle or the bottom of the bottle. If you see the top of the bottle, it's difficult to identify which one's which because all the bottles have similar tops. If you have them upside down where you see the bottom, you can see the color, but it's still very hard to figure out, okay, which one goes with which, especially as they get jumbled up and scrambled and so forth. It's hard to keep them in line with the other sets. So the new design with the apothecary cabinet is a series of 20 drawers arranged in a large box, and each drawer holds 6 bottles. That way, with either the airbrush paint, which comes in triads of 3, or in the new Army Painter Fanatic, which comes in sets of 6, everything fits nice and organized, and you can set each drawer to fit a particular color or a particular triad set, whatever the 6 set naming is. Keeps them nice and organized. So I have one of the prototypes that I've been working on just to sort of show it off. I'll probably have the finalized design probably posted, I'm suspecting, by next weekend. I do have all of the drawers cut out, all the cabinet done. I'm just going through all the drawers are actually built. I just am adding little drawer tabs in the front. That's the only piece I really have left, and then to get through organizing it. And then I'll probably post a handful of pictures from a beauty shot standpoint. I don't think I'm going to end up selling this physically because it does take quite a bit of time and material to create or to actually cut, and I don't have a good way of shipping large size pieces. About 14 inches by 14 inches is just too big for standard shipping boxes that I have access to. If there's enough interest, I'm certainly willing to do so, but all the various parts comes out to a couple of days worth of laser cutting to get all the pieces cut and cleaned up and organized and everything. Works fine for me for prototypes and a couple of boxes I'll want to build, but otherwise my intent is to make the designs available through Etsy as far as a digital download, and you're free to cut it using your own laser if you need to. Again, if there's enough interest, leave a comment if you have such interest, then I can look at producing them in a small quantity. But again, it's probably going to be cost prohibitive because like I said, it's quite a bit of material and quite a bit of time to do. The design, the digital design will be fairly inexpensive. It's just a design, but you can cut it on your own and make as many as you wish. As long as it's all for personal use, I don't mind. Make as many as you want. I do have plans to expand the design somewhat into a second tier level where the main box would go on top and have a lower stand, I guess, sort of to lift the box up a bit, provide some more access to it, and then provide some space for Citadel pots underneath it in an organized fashion. The drawers don't really fit well for the Citadel pots. I tested them out, and I basically only get 2 pots in this particular drawer. I could certainly redesign it and resize it so that you can get 3 or 6 or whatever number of Citadel pots, but that's a lot of effort, and the Citadel contrast paints, at least for me, work far better in my other rack design because you can see the colors, you can see how they work, and all you're using them for is reference from a contrast standpoint. So as I've been painting the lids, I can see the colors directly. I don't need to have them put away in a drawer to organize them by triad or anything. So a little bit different strategy there, but I do still want to have them visible and together. So like I said, I'm looking at possibly a stage 2 of the apothecary case to have a stand that the whole thing sits on to add the extra space for the Citadel ones. Again, brainstorming at this point. I'll let you know as I get closer to it if that ends up working out and how those designs work. Looking forward into the future. As I started off by saying, this is May 25th. So first bit of news is happy birthday to my wife. Her birthday is today. She's another year older. I won't spoil it as far as what age that makes her, but neither of us are spring chickens anymore. But we enjoy life and enjoy each other's company and have a lot of fun. So have some fun activities planned for her. And this next week, as I mentioned once or twice, we're doing a big birthday bowling trip. Quite a few of the moms of our gaming group all have birthdays right around here. I think the latest count is 4 birthdays or 5 birthdays right within a couple of weeks. So the idea is to go to bowling as a large group, several lanes reserved, and just have an evening where everybody can just have fun and play and do a little bit of competition between everybody. So that'll be coming up on Wednesday, plus whatever activities we end up doing tomorrow for her birthday itself. Next week we also have the release of episode 81, as I mentioned, for Star Wars Legion. That'll be coming out on Friday. Of course, if you're a member of the channel, you get early access along with some other perks. So consider that if you want to help support the channel and help push the content. Always appreciated. Haven't been able to get anybody quite interested in it yet, but always hopeful. The other big pieces we have coming up, of course, in June, after the end of this holiday, the end of May, we have our big role-playing games that are getting started again. June 2nd sees the start of our Kingmaker campaign. We have 7 players ready to go. We're just finalizing the artwork. I should be able to post some of the pictures and at least the introductions, hopefully by next week. That's where I'm aiming for, since that's really when the schedule of the game start is. Hopefully everybody gets their homework done. I'm also, if I get time, I'm working on formulating an introduction video to Kingmaker, just as sort of a 2 or 3 minute snapshot of what's come before, what's the history of the region, etc., as a background for anybody that might be playing it or anybody else that might be interested in that campaign. Don't know if I'll get to it. That's not a high priority for me, but it is something I'm considering working on. We also see on June 5th the return of our Warhammer campaign. After the holidays and breaks, we're going to be resuming that campaign. The group is currently just south of Commandun, exploring the old moat house and tracking down Eric Carlsbad and the cultists that he's working for, trying to stop whatever plot they happen to be doing and bring him to justice. So tune in for that game if you're interested in the Warhammer and Rollmaster system that we use. And then on June 9th, we have a resumption of our Traveler game using Shadowrun system as the group continues their exploration of the Trojan Reach. That game, we managed to get 1 session in, a basic introduction, start the campaign, set the storyline, and so forth, and the group was quickly recruited to be privateers in the Trojan Reach for the Drinex Empire, but that's a bit of a stretch. It's really just one city at this point, to help them try to recover their former glory and so forth. and given a handful of missions to start tracking down some people and some disruptions in the nearby area. So should be interesting. The group was very eager to get that going. Fortunately, once we got that first game, we had to take a break because of holidays and other activities. Should be resuming again June 9th is when our next game is scheduled. And then, of course, there's the big game that we have coming up, which I mentioned once or twice, is our Axis&Allies global game. That's scheduled for June 17th. Running probably 3, maybe 4 nights over the course of next week. Almost certainly won't be doing any video for it. Might take a couple of snapshots and some pictures. But we have a group of, I want to say 8 players at this point. We're missing 1 or 2 since some had to drop out. And we're looking to fill out the entire group and play a long game. Most of the materials are ready. We 3D printed some miscellaneous pieces. We have some currency to be able to track production points. We have some 3D printed models to use for some of the different aspects. And of course a giant board that covers the entire table so that everybody can keep track of where their units are and so forth. So should be a lot of fun. Again, that kicks off on June 17th and will run for several days based on availability and scheduling, and however long the game ends up taking. That is all the news for this week. Quick summary. I don't think I missed anything, but if I did, I'll cover it in the next one. As before, I'm looking to publish these most Saturdays in the morning, depending on schedule, depending on availability. So this should be ready to go first thing tomorrow morning. I'm actually recording it Friday night late. Otherwise, thank you for your time, and we'll catch you in a week. Thanks.